Welcome, everybody, to the Sam Stevenson podcast. Today I have with me a wonderful man. He is a master builder of sorts. He's been growing up in the construction background world. He's got craftsmanship figured out. He's got the whole shebang. This is Mr. Zeb Hood. How are we doing today, Zeb?
I'm doing great. Thanks
Excellent.
for having me.
So, Zeb, what got you started into the construction world?
Well, I grew up in it. My dad's a builder in Western Pennsylvania, so I was homeschooled when I was a young child, and so I spent a lot of mornings and maybe afternoons with my dad, at least sweeping floors and kind of riding around with him. So that was my first introduction to it. And then we're obviously here in Texas, and so when we decided to move to Texas, my first job was with a cabinet company here in Texas, and kind of done some cabinets and some construction here in Texas, and that's kind of how I got into it.
At what point were you switching out of like sweeping floors and like using your hands to accomplish the work into managing other people?
Yeah, I still enjoy sweeping floors.
Do you really?
Yes, I really do enjoy sweeping floors and have a clean job site. So I don't know if I ever graduated from sweeping floors.
Still sweeps floors.
It's obviously a lot harder when your dad's the boss. Sometimes he doesn't think like maybe you're qualified to do anything but sweep floors. But to answer your question, I would say, probably high school, college. I obviously had acquired some more skills. Just to take a step back, my dad owns a construction company. Most of it was remodeling, so there wasn't like a position of like project management at that point. It was more like, hey, you can not sweep floors, but you can frame or do some trim work or what have you. So really, I didn't get into project management until I moved to Texas here, and I started my own construction company, and that's when I picked up the project management side.
Excellent. Okay, so when you started your own company, you were like, I'm not going to dabble into like fixing it myself. Out of the gate, you were going to be a project manager.
Yeah, I had a neat opportunity. Like I said, I was working for a cabinet company, and then I had a neat opportunity to go build a big townhome complex, and without going into a lot of detail on how we set that up, I opened my own company before we did that, and my first job was really project management in construction in Texas. So I obviously had known some stuff about being around it for a long time, and being a subcontractor at a cabinet company. You obviously see it going on. I did work for a builder for about a year between the cabinet company and my own company. So I had that experience, but yeah.
Okay.
First job in construction really was the project management side of it.
Dang. Okay. So like, what was the learning curve like?
Well, then I was young and dumb, so I probably thought I knew a lot of things that I probably
That's relatable.
Yeah. So the learning, I will say that when I was building these townhomes, we were building the same thing over and over again, which definitely helped because I'm not trying to figure out a new building or a new floor plan every time. I'm basically building the same thing over and over again. So the learning curve on that was I would say fairly easy. The hard side of project management and building those types of things is really like the communication piece of it. How much communication are you doing with your back office people? How much communication are you having to do with your customer? So that kind of thing. And the learning curve is pretty I would say steep in that it's not hard, but it's steep if you want to be successful at it.
Okay. So like if somebody were to want to build their own house and be successful, what would they learn from, like, what was the communication parts you learned? It's like, how do you communicate with like your subs, for example?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pieces to that, but I think one of them, maybe the biggest piece, is just being humble. You're project managing. You're not the expert plumber. You're not the expert electrician. You're trying to be the expert, bring it all together kind of guy. So relying on your subs, asking them questions, seeing what they need. I would say that's probably the biggest pieces of it.
Okay, so do you think that like it's problematic a lot? There's a lot of builders that are like, well, I know what I'm doing, and you don't know how to do your job, and
yeah, I mean, those are definitely those types of people are definitely out there. Maybe as you get older, towards the younger generation, you're like that a little bit more. I don't know.
What should you keep in mind when you're trying to communicate with somebody who's an expert at what they're doing?
Yeah, I think asking really good questions and not open-ended questions. Like if I was going to give you an example, in fact, I was having breakfast with somebody this morning that's kind of new in project management. I was saying like, what kind of questions are you asking your subs? Because really he was coming across, he had asked me the question like, how do I get good answers from my subs? I'm having to, put my boss into text messages or emails, so I'm getting responses because they're the ones writing the checks. And like, I want to get away from that. How do I get away from that? And my answer to that is ask the right questions and ask good questions. So, I had used the example with them. When you ask your painter when he's coming to the job site, how do you frame that question? And really we got to the point of, hey, I need you here by this date. When can you come? And you're asking him a direct question. He's giving you a direct answer. And then like, there's probably some follow up to that, of like, hey, great, I'll meet you there at 8:00. And that is a better question than saying, hey, I need you to finish by Friday. Can you make that happen? And they respond, sure. But then somebody asks you like, hey, when's the painter coming? Well, I don't really know. He's just coming before Friday.
Got it.
So good questions usually get better answers.
Okay. So being direct and clear in
I think
what you want.
I think being direct and clear is a good way to sum it up.
Okay. Would you describe that on average subs tend to like to give direct answers, or they like to kind of be indirect and like, well, let me see what I can do, and does that just vary by?
Yeah, I think it varies, but again, getting to know your subs and kind of what their workload outside of your job might look like, kind of what, are they busy? Are they trying to get a lot of closings done? The more you know about these people and what else they got going on helps you to better manage your project.
That makes sense.
And also, I keep going back to it, but asking them, good questions like, hey, I know you got a lot going on. I know this is a busy week for you, but can we get this piece done? Because like, I need this piece done to get this other stuff done. So like, I don't need it all done, but I need this piece done, and this is when I need it done by. I think, that definitely helps. But the only way you get there is by knowing these people and asking really good questions.
That's fair. So there's a wide variety of people who claim they're builders, these days.
Yeah.
I think earlier you had told me that like nowadays all you need to do to be a builder is buy a truck and a laptop, and now you're a home builder. So like, for someone who's looking to get a house built, what should they look for in terms of what's likely to be a good builder, what's not?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably lots of good answers to that. I mean, it's, you're trying to find a good fit, right, for your project. Are you asking specifically about like if you're trying to build a house?
Yeah, if somebody was looking for a third-party builder, like what differentiates someone who's going to effectively give them a good product and communicate well, and like what makes a builder easy to work with and what makes like a nightmare house build?
Yeah. I'd probably say systems, or the lack thereof of systems, would be something to look at, and it's a good question to ask a builder up front. There's obviously big corporation builders that got lots of staff and lots of resources, and there's probably a bigger population of builders that it's him and maybe his wife is the decorator, and maybe they got a project manager, and maybe they got a part-time bookkeeper.
Right.
And so those types of people are going to have less resources to give you on their project, but they might be more in tune with your project, your house. So just kind of checking on what type of systems they have. If I could help the builder community out there, I would say you can't be everything.
In terms of like what you can build,
you can't build everything, right?
Yeah.
And you can't give people everything maybe that they expect. So like trying to get out in front of that stuff and tell them like, hey, this is what I have, as far as resources. Like I got, a bookkeeper, she writes our checks and does our invoices on Fridays. So like I can't answer all your invoice and check questions throughout the week. I got one project manager. We have 5 jobs going on. We got 10 jobs going on. He's got a family. I have a family. So we usually shut it down 5 or 6. Please don't, call me unless it's an emergency, after 6. If you can, put in an email if you got a question. Or, like I know when I was building, and I know a lot of builders now, they say, hey, we're going to have a weekly meeting. And that's when I need you to, save all your questions, because that's when I can, give you all my attention and we can knock that stuff out. And so just communicating those type of things and what resources you have up front with your builder, I think, or with your customer, helps them kind of decide on.
I gotcha. So you were talking about fit, like you can't build everything. So what would you describe as being the main difference between building a little 1,200 square foot spec house and building a 6,000 square foot custom home? As a builder, like you're going to approach this project.
The end customer.
Okay. Yeah, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah. You're asking from the builder's perspective?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's going to, obviously both of these things need to happen, right? Like our world doesn't exist without big production, get these jobs on the ground, get them built, get people moved in. Like that's part of it. There's also a big, I don't know how big it is. I shouldn't necessarily say that, but there's another population that wants, customized houses that and they got resources, they got money, they got time. And so, both of them are out there. And what was your original question?
The original question was like, well, what do you think about the difference between the two if you were going to approach one of the two projects, mindset-wise? What do you emotionally prepare yourself for?
If I was building a big custom 6,000 square foot house, I would make sure that I communicated with my customers often about what I can and cannot give them on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Okay.
Especially if they're like living on site or living close to the project.
Because they're going to want to see it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, hey, there's nobody at the house one day, and they're asking you, why is nobody at my house working?
Uh-huh.
So and again, I'll come back to, I think it's maybe old or maybe a little bit old school, but I think like having a scheduled meeting on a regular basis, and covering, hey, this is what we should see happen the following week. That would help. But yeah, if I was going to build a 6,000 square foot house, which I have no intention, that's not my wheelhouse. I've kind of done that. There's certain things that I don't love about those projects.
Okay.
But yeah, I would just communication would be the biggest thing, and trying to stay out in front of the customer.
Okay. If you were looking at like when you're going to be a builder, you want to choose which industry to be a part of, like because both industries have headaches.
Yeah.
Right? What would you say are the main headaches of one versus the other?
People. It's probably just how people interact with each other on each one, so coming from the production side, hey, it's all about time and getting subs in and out and getting that job to completion so you can close it and get a check cashed. Where the other one is, hey, this is our dream home. Yes, we want it to be finished in a timely manner, but there's some time. We want more quality, that sort of thing. So.
Okay, got it. If there was changing the directed avatar here, so if you were speaking to a young man who's like, you know what, I love construction. I hit things with a hammer when I was a kid. I'm considering getting into this field. How would someone like that get into the industry, learn as fast as possible? Like, how do you recommend someone like that start if they want to be a home builder one day?
Yeah, obviously you can go to school for construction science and kind of have a background there.
Do you think that's useful? Did you get that?
No, I did not get that.
Okay.
If you were in college, I would say that's probably a good place to be. It's not the only place, but that would be a good place. Really, if somebody was, wanting to get into it and they were, let's just say they're younger than 25 right now. Obviously, I grew up in a period of time where there weren't cell phones, right? And obviously social media was different. I don't know when social media, maybe when I was 18, 20, social media started becoming a thing. But now, I have high school age kids. That's how these kids communicate, right? Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's the world they live in. I don't pretend to want to necessarily change that. I don't think it necessarily needs change.
Sure.
But I also think that if somebody's thinking about getting, and maybe this is a broader, thought, but they need to learn how to communicate off of social media, off of a text or off of whatever. It's not TikTok. It's
Instagram, Facebook.
What's the other one? Where they all Snapchat.
Oh, Snapchat. Yeah.
Yeah. They need to learn to communicate off Snapchat. Your Mason's not communicating with you on Snapchat.
Oh, I see. I see.
So I think for
okay.
Somebody to be able to learn to communicate and realize that, hey, you're probably going to be managing people that are older than you. Mm-hmm. This was a couple years ago, but like the average age of a mason, according to like National Home Builders Association, I think was like in their 60s, which means there's some that are younger than 60, but there's some that are older than.
Right.
They have no idea what social media is, right? And they're for sure not communicating it over that, especially about the job site. So it's probably a little long-winded answer, but if you want to get into it, just realize where you're at communication-wise.
Okay.
And realize, hey, you're going to be communicating with a bunch of people that are not in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
You need to get out of your car, you need to get off your phone, and you need to go talk to them, and see what they need.
So learning things like eye contact and direct communication, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you learned that in building science. Maybe you could take a communication class in college. I don't know, but yeah, just be somebody real to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So, big question: can somebody get rich building houses?
Sure. Yeah. You can make. I don't know what rich with the green stuff or.
Yes.
Rich with
correct.
The
Rich with the stuff that buys everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, yes, there's lots of money to be made. It's obviously one of the biggest purchases an individual will probably make.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're spending lots of money. They want it done a certain way. They should expect what they need to expect out of you, and they should expect to pay you a good wage to make that happen. You're going to build it. It's way different than a car, right? Somebody builds you a car and you go buy it and you drive it home, it's worth less money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're going to go build something for somebody that in 3 years can make them a ton of money, right? Depending on the market. This is something that they could hand down to their family in 50 years,
yeah.
right? And it could be staying in the family, and it's sentimental and it's very important to them, or those people are going to turn around and sell that and, give a big chunk of inheritance to, their children or whatever. So, it's a big ticket item. There's lots of money to be made.
On the subject of lots of money being made, what about money being lost? Do you have any anecdotal stories, or what's the most expensive building mistake you've seen? Oh man, we got to tear the framing down and move the slab.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Have I told you my nightmare?
No.
Yeah. I used to have this nightmare when I was building. I would wake up in the middle of the night and realize that I had built the house backwards, meaning the garage was facing the backyard and not the street. So I'm not sure where that came from, but that has not happened to me, by the way. I have not actually done that.
It's not a well-founded fear.
Yeah. That would be a big mistake, by the way. I did make a mistake building a custom house one time. These people wanted stained concrete floors, and that was kind of the big thing then, was to have stained concrete floors. It I guess save some money on the flooring cost, and was a certain look. Especially here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't get the floors covered in time, and we had a spot that the homeowners just would not accept. Looking back on that, I gotta, I'd probably approach it a little bit differently now about how I tell people we can give them stained concrete floors and what, a finished product really is. But
yeah.
Anyway, what it came down to is I ended up buying them a house full of flooring.
Got it.
So that's probably one of my bigger mistakes. It helped save a relationship, so I was happy to do it. But yeah, it did cost me a little bit of money.
Well, that could be. I hear that's one of the best ways to build the best relationships is you made a mistake and then you overcover your mistake with people, and those people become the best. Yeah. Promoters of whatever you're about.
Yeah. You're going to build a house, and there's going to be. It's not going to go 100% correct.
Really?
Or to plan.
Are you serious?
I'm 100% serious. I've yet to build a house or a townhome that's had zero flaws. So yeah, I think you're right on that.
But how hard could it be, Zeb? You don't even have to do anything. It's all the tradesmen that are doing all the work for you.
Yeah. That's one way to look at it.
What would you say to the people that there's definitely a vibe out there that's especially with YouTube now, everyone thinks they're very educated on what it takes to build a house.
Yep.
And then they're like, hey, I've watched 100 YouTube videos. I'm going to go build a house. Now, I did this, right? So I'm not innocent.
Yeah.
I thought I knew some stuff, and then I got into it, and I was like, wow, this is hard. This is tough. I took all the spacers out of my tiles too soon in the shower tile on the wall, and they all started sagging down. I was like, that stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So what would you say to someone who's approaching a house build and they're like, I want to avoid that 30% markup of the builder or whatever? How would you justify the builder's value to someone like that?
Well, unless you have some really good connections, you're going to spend that money just buying material because they're probably buying material at, less of a retail price than you are. So, I always, this question does come up, right? Especially for, people that are trying to maybe build a $500,000 house on a $450,000 budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can I save money? Well, I don't have to hire the builder; they cost a lot of money.
Yeah, we could save $100,000 off the top just by not hiring.
Yeah, by not hiring a builder, and on paper that does work every time. You just take, I will say when I was building, I always charged a flat fee, so. That's the world that I'm coming from. I didn't charge for, if they bought more expensive tile from Italy, I wasn't making more money off of that job.
Okay.
I looked at it as like, hey, I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars to build this house. And I don't care if you buy, dollar floor tile or big expensive tile from Italy. It's essentially the same amount of work for me to manage that project. So that's where I'm coming from. So when I was doing that, I was presenting the customer with my fee, and they saw my fee. And so let's just say my fee was $50,000 to build that house. Well, in their mind, they could be thinking, well, how do I save myself the $50,000, right? Like, hey, we can't afford to hire, Zeb to build our house, but if we do it and we do it on our own, we can just use the subs, use
the whole DIY thing.
Yeah, and I will say, and maybe you're good enough to do that. That's definitely a possibility. The reality is, you're not going to save $50,000. Maybe you save some, maybe you save zero, maybe you spend more, but there's nobody to fall back on. Like you hold the insurance card when you're building it. So, you can't go back to your builder and say, hey, I don't like my stained concrete floor. What can we do? Can you buy me flooring?
Yep. You own all that.
You own it. So and so everybody's kind of got to decide, on their own what they want to do. But
yeah, because you think about, since 100% of house builds don't go as planned, that's going to mean extra money is going to get spent to the HVAC guy stepped through the sheetrock.
Yeah.
Who's covering that? And if you don't have a good relationship established with the HVAC guy, he might say, no, or whatever.
Yeah. And we don't even get into the discussion of, hey, you're borrowing money from a bank and it takes you 12 months to build a house instead of 7 months or 8 months. How much more money did you spend?
Right.
Or, hey, my father-in-law is an economist. He would say your time is worth something. There's no free lunches.
Yes.
So, if you value your time and you multiply it by 0, then yes, you can make that number look as good as you want.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Zeb? I've learned personally in the last year or two that the having your time and your focus is one of the most valuable things you could have.
Yeah.
To excel in life, and there's so many people that look at home building specifically because everybody's gonna have a home, everyone's gonna have a deck, everyone wants to do that, right? And there's value in learning how to do a fun thing like build a deck.
Sure.
For sure. But you said your father was an economist, so what's your personal take on your time value of money and all that stuff with you? If you're gonna approach a project, would you build your own house? Would you pay someone to build a house?
I'd probably build my own house.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's because I have, at least where I'm at right now. If I'm living in College Station, Texas, am I building my own house? Probably. If I move to, the Northwest and don't know anybody.
Well, you know me, and I have connections up there.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So, I'll pick a different part of the country where we don't know anybody.
Don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, Las Vegas. I'm probably gonna hire somebody.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
So yeah, just because I do value my time, and obviously, building's different in Las Vegas than it is here. There's different rules, there's different people. I don't know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So can I just give that project to somebody and go make my money at my job?
Right.
So
right.
instead of taking a bunch of time off or whatever I got to do.
Got it. Put all your money into crypto and let that make you money.
Yeah.
Instead of
I'm sure that wouldn't make me any money.
Hey, you never know, man. You never know. Awesome, bro. So, where can the folks find you if they want to learn more about Zeb and like support his efforts and his endeavors?
Where can they find me?
Yeah, like if a Twitter or people want to follow you and keep up with the cool stuff that Zeb's doing.
I am on Facebook.
Facebook? Okay.
Yeah. I don't post anything anymore.
Awesome. So to all my 60-plus-year-old friends out there, you want to follow Zeb? He's on Facebook.
Yeah, you could probably call Sam and get my phone number. That's probably the best way to.
Excellent, man.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? When people come to town and they want to know a good builder or learn from someone who knows some stuff, like you're the guy. So
yeah,
I appreciate everything you've taught me. This has been an awesome journey, and appreciate you taking the time and sharing all this information, man.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Zeb.